towards radical alternatives. And to say, well, he's not going to, as the most powerful person in the world, he's not going to have a big pull and a big kind of platform to steer things his way and convince people of his ideas. That's very risky. I think if you're going to back Ron Paul, you're going to need to back all of his ideas, especially the ones that he's most passionate about, which happen to be those crazy ideas, according to Cenk. And those ideas, to me, are extremely dangerous. The flat tax idea, the idea of abolishing or basically destroying the public education system, of removing consumer protection, essentially. These are things that, to me, they should strike fear in the hearts of people. They're terrible ideas. They're ideas that may well establish this kind of this neo-feudal society to an extent that we haven't seen before. It doesn't matter if Ron Paul wants to cut some subsidies and remove some regulation. I mean, unless you really believe that having a lot of capital isn't a source of power in itself. If you believe that having a lot of capital isn't actually a source of power, then it's probably fine, because he'll unleash the free market and everything will be dandy. If you, like I do, believe that capital in itself is power, and the people with a lot of capital are going to have a lot of power in this new world that is going to be increasingly run by the free market and the supposedly free market, the market, and the corporations that make up a lot of that market, and the corporations that are definitely the biggest fish in that market, well, if you believe that that power is real, then you might think that's a problem. And I'm gonna, there's Noam Chomsky. He refers to himself as a fellow traveler of left libertarians and anarchists. And I love that term, and I guess that's probably kind of maybe somewhere where I fit in, because I probably wouldn't call myself either of those things, but I have a lot of sympathy for a lot of the ideas. But one thing I heard he said in one interview or talk was, we need to actually right now strengthen the state, because the state is far the lesser of two evils. We have control over the state. Yes, people can distort and people can convince people to vote against their interests, but at least we have control over it to some extent. We don't have any control over corporations. We don't have any control over what goes on this supposedly free market. Not really. You can vote with your pocketbook, but when 50% of the wealth is in the hands of 1%, then voting with your pocketbook becomes a pretty one-sided vote. It actually becomes much like the vote of yesteryear, where people that had a lot of property actually got more votes for politicians than people without property. So that's the huge risk. I think in this environment, cutting down on the size of government, when we've unleashed the power, the monopoly on power of these corporations and their leaders, would be a catastrophe. And that is a catastrophe that Ron Paul stands behind and backs in many ways. I don't think any of his policies will do anything really to limit that. I think that the U.S. is in some ways overregulated when it comes to regulation concerning various aspects of business and so on. It's underregulated in other aspects. Watch Anubis's video on Ron Paul and some issues surrounding that. It's very good. But yes, that might be something to address. That might be something where corporations are having undue influence over politicians. But if you think that that's really the only thing that's keeping the market from providing this perfect kind of utopia and from not allowing corporations any more power, I guess that's your freedom of you're free to believe what you want. But I'm actually, the idea of a Ron Paul presidency worries me